I'm going to show you how to prepare and paint your garage door so it lasts. Scrub the surfaces down using some sugar soap and a good hard scrubbing brush. Then give it a light sanding down if you don't know what type of paint's been on there originally. Fill in any holes with your filler, leave that to dry and then re-sand it again. Then you can apply some finishing coat. I normally apply this over the filler, so your first coat of paint is going to dry flatter. Now the paint I'm using is from the Alfresco range and the colour is smudge. But I'm applying this on with 3 different methods. The first door using a large paintbrush, then the second door I'm using a small radiator roller. Now the next side of the door I'm using my small handheld paint sprayer. Once it's dry I applied the second coat using the sprayer. Now for the outside frame I'm going to apply the paint on using a brush. Again it's the Alfresco range, but this time the colour is Blackjack. For more videos, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY.
In this 60-second tip, I'm going to show you how to paint terracotta pots so they last. You do need to give it a really good scrub down with the concentrated sugar soap beforehand. So I'm going to start my preparation by sealing my pot with Friendshik's finishing coat. This is touch dry within 15 to 30 minutes, so once it is, you can start on your second coat. Once your second coat is dry, for best results you can even apply a third coat. And then you're ready to start painting. The colours I've chosen are Dive In and Raspberry Punch from Friendshik's limited edition Alfresco range. Millions of people across social media are hashtagging best paint in the world. Whenever Craig and I use it, it's always easy to see why. Now that my first coat is complete, I'm going to leave it to dry for a couple of hours before I come back and start my second coat. For more 60-second tips, subscribe to the YouTube channel Mr. and Mrs. DIY.
Hi, I'm Craig Phillips. This is how you build a brick barbecue. Start by mixing your mortar, 4 sand, 1 cement, add a bit of dye. Set it out on the floor. You're going to need a solid base to work off. Lay the first course of your 4-tier engineering bricks, checking that it's square and level. Continue your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th course. Every 3 or 4 courses, make sure you point the brickwork before it dries. Give it a quick brush off. When you get to the 8th course, this is where you're going to step out with your brickwork to hold the barbecue. You do the same on the 10th course, this will hold the grill. And again on the 12th course. When you've got to the desired height, spread some cement over the top, smooth this off, give it a quick rub down with a sponge. And it's complete. If you're looking for more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY. Oh, that's hot. This is how you install a resin-bound pathway. Tamper your surfaces down using a whacker plate. Empty your stone into the mixing drum and then apply your sand. Pour your 2 parts resin into 1 bucket and then add your catalyst. Mix this well. Pour it into the mixer so it can bind with the stones. Once it's mixed for a couple of minutes, then it can slowly be poured out into your wheelbarrow. Then you want to start at your furthest point away, tipping it up into small manageable piles. Then using a flat rake, start to spread it out evenly as possible, about 30 to 40 millimeters thick. Then press it down with your trowel, smoothing it off from left to right. And then continue doing the same process. Pour, level, and flatten with your trowel. Check out the full step-by-step video on our Mr. and Mrs. DIY YouTube channel. I'm going to show you how to install brand new fence posts when your existing ones have failed and your fence is about to fall down. Dig a hole in between each fence panel about 600 millimeters deep and 400 millimeters wide. Mix a stiff concrete 4-to-1 mix and half fill the hole. Tamper it down with the edge of your shovel. Place your post into position. Give it a gentle tap, check that it's level. You can always secure this with a batten onto something stable like another fence post, just to make sure it stays level and in position before you apply the rest of the concrete around the base of the post. Leave this to dry for 24 hours, then force the old fence back into position where the new post is. Hold this together with a clamp and drive some large screws through an angle bracket. You can do this at the top, middle and bottom. If you want more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY. In one of my previous videos, I showed you how to install fence posts. This video, I'm going to show you how to create close board fencing. So now your posts are set, you're going to need to install some horizontal arras rails. Clamp these into position, check that they're level using your spirit level, and then drill some pilot holes through the front of the post and drive in 2 100mm screws. Now I'm applying a high strength fast curing adhesive across the face of all the arras rails. Then place your feather edge slats into position. You can hold these down using a hammer and a nail, but if you happen to have a nail gun, it'll be a bit quicker. It's just until the adhesive is dry. Every third board, check that it's level, and then continue to do this until your section is complete. And that's how you build your close board fencing. If you're looking for more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY. I'm going to show you how to prepare and paint unpainted decking planks. On newly laid boards, first you're going to need to fill the screw holes. I applied some flexible outdoor paintable filler. Then before it dried, wiped it smooth. Once it was dried, give it a little tickle over with a sandpaper. For the first layer of paint, I diluted it down by 5%. This allows the paint to penetrate deeply into the wood. Then leave it for 4 hours before applying your second coat, but you may have to give it a gentle sanding as the wood might feel a little bit coarse after the first coat. Don't forget to take your shoes off if you have to walk on the decking for the first 3 weeks until the paint is completely cured. And that's your decking now complete. For more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY. I'm going to show you how to clean, prepare and paint previously painted decking planks. It's vital to ensure that the surface and structure is in a suitable and dry condition. The pre-painted boards need to have a good scrubbing down with a sugar soap. Then rinsed off and dried. Check the boards to see if there's no decay or damage. Then you can use a wire wool brush to remove any flaky or loose paint. Then give them a light sanding down before you apply your paint. You can paint straight out of the can without no dilution. Leave for 4 hours under normal conditions before applying your second coat. It's advisable to take your shoes off for the first 3 weeks until it's completely cured. For more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY. In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix down artificial grass on your flat roof. There's a number of benefits of fitting artificial grass over a flat roof. To start with, aesthetically it looks so much better. It'll help with the insulation value as well as adding extra soundproofing. Our roof is a fiberglass GRP system. Many standard roofs are felt, so you're going to need to use a professional adhesive, just like 3C's Max Bond. Apply a heavy line of glue across the front, back and sides of your roof area, as well as internal lines at least 1 metre apart. Roll your artificial grass over the glue, using a soft brush to iron out any creases, trying to get it as flat as possible. You can also use the inner tube roll, which will help flatten the surface. The artificial grass is weatherproof, permeable and it drains efficiently, so if it's fitted correctly, it'll last for years. If you're looking for more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY. In this video, I'm going to show you how to seal around your window frames where it meets the brickwork. Make sure the areas you're going to apply the sealing to is clean and dust-free. Apply a strip of masking tape along the edge of the frame about 5mm in and also along the edge of the brickwork to get a neater line of silicone. Cut the nozzle at a 45-degree angle, place it in between the masking tape strips and start to pull the handle on your silicone gun. Once the adhesive or sealant starts to come out, move it down at a continuous pace. Then take a silicone wipe, make sure your fingers are nice and clean, and you can start to smooth off the sealant. Now you don't wait for this to dry. As soon as you've smoothed it, you can start to move the masking tape off. If you're looking for more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY. In this video, I'm going to show you how to prepare and paint wooden picket fencing with French heat paint using 3 different methods. Start off by sanding the surface of your fence using an orbital sander. Open your tin of paint, give it a good stir. My first application is using a paintbrush. Then another alternative is using a small radiator roller. Pour the paint into your tray, get plenty on the roller and start to apply on the surface. Then there's paint spraying. You may need to dilute your paint by 10 to 20% until you get a nice smooth runny consistency. Pop on your PPE and then start spraying, making sure you've got dust sheets or cardboard covering the surface below. Apply any finishing touches and you're done. If you want to see more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a strong base for your garden shed that's portable. Take the measurements from the base of your shed, cut down some 3x2 tannalized timber, mark up where they're going to be fixed, drill some pilot holes, apply some multi-use glue on the edges of the cut timber, drive 2 large 4-inch screws through the outside timber into each strut. Depending on how big your shed is, you want to have a strut about every 450mm apart. I'm going to apply 2 more pieces of 3x2 timber either side to add to the strength and to hold the 4 corner wheels in place. I'm adding 2 further noggins on the inside which will also support the wheels. I'm using 6 wheels, 1 at all 4 corners and 2 in the centre. So I'm going to drill a pilot hole first, place a washer on the end and drive that in with your screwdriver. I'll turn this over and place the shed base onto the top. If you're looking for more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY. Hi, I'm Craig Phillips. This is how you build a flat pack garden shed. I'm starting with the back. It's always wise to have somebody to hold it for you. Into the base first, then lift up the side panel, holding it square and level at the corner, driving some screws in to hold the side panel into position. Then screw the bottom of the side panel into the base. You do the same with the opposite side panel and then you're ready to place the front section in position. Double check that it's level and then screw that into the 2 side sections and the base. When driving the screws in, it's always wise to drill a pilot hole first. It's easier to drive your screws in. Now the 4 sides are fixed into position, we're going to place the roof panels on. Before I do this, I'm running a line of multi-use adhesive all the way along the front and back and centre edges. I'm going to place the panel into position and screw this down. The glue is going to add to the overall structural strength. So that's the main structure now complete. If you're looking for more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY. Hi, I'm Craig Phillips. Here's 3 ways to paint your garden shed. Give it a good sanding across all the wood. I'm going to be using French chic swanky pants from the Alfresco range. And I'm painting all the corners first with a heavy paintbrush. These are going to be covered later with a trim, but it will make it last longer. Then I used a small radiator roller to paint the front sections of the panels. This is a little bit quicker than the brush. If you do use a paint sprayer, you will have to dilute your paint down. But they're quick and easy to use. This is the consistency you're looking for. Test it on a small piece of cardboard first. Once you're happy, then you can start to paint the whole panel of the shed. I start from going left to right. Let this dry for 2 hours, then apply a second coat. Then you can turn the nozzle and spray up and down. If you're looking for more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY. I'm Craig Phillips and I'm adding the finishing touches to my garden shed. Once the paint was dry, I did a couple of coats on the main doors. The colour I'm using is City Slicker. Likewise with the trim, I painted all 4 sides of this for better protection. These are going to be placed on the corners. Screw the hinges onto the door, offer it up into position and screw it in tight to the frame. Double check that it swings okay. Apply some good quality multi-use on the trims, offer these up to the corner and screw them into position. I applied the glue across the roof panels, rolled out the felt, pinned down the corners and covered them with a trim. Again, glued further trims on the underside of the roof, clamped these into position till it dried. So that's how you build your flat pack shed. Prepare all the surfaces and paint it so it lasts. If you're looking for more 60-second tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. DIY.